tonight will vote on contempt charges against Lerner tomorrow. He says it's simple. When you have a duly issued subpoena, you must comply with it. That is the law, and it is not optional, he says. Joining us now, Congressman Jason Chaffetz, a member of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, the Judiciary Committee as well, and the Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, good to have you with us.
Thanks, Lou.
This vote tomorrow, how do you expect it to proceed, and what will be the result?
Well, we'll get kicked off at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm sure there'll be a lot of verbal jousting going on back and forth, a lot of flailing of the arms. But ultimately, it's about this 21-page document that I have in my hand, which I think demonstrates very clearly that Lois Lerner waived her Fifth Amendment rights when she testified before Congress and then subsequently tried to invoke the Fifth Amendment. As my colleague Trey Gowdy, Chairman Issa, and others have pointed out, she had waived her Fifth Amendment rights. We have the right to question her. She will not comply with a duly issued subpoena, and we're left with no option but to hold her in contempt of Congress, refer that to the full House, and hopefully have a vote on that before the end of the month.
Congressman Elijah Cummings saying that Darrell Issa is basically Joe McCarthy writ 2014, and at the same time, Cummings is charged with directly intervening in the affairs of the committee and going directly to Lois Lerner. Your reaction?
I don't like it when it gets too personal. I remember Speaker Boehner, when I first got to Congress, which wasn't too long ago, said, you know what, you can disagree, just don't be disagreeable. And I think sometimes when it gets a little too personal, trying to call somebody or equate them to Joe McCarthy and that era, I think that steps over the line a little bit. We just need to look at the facts, and the facts remain that these conservative groups were targeted repeatedly. And when you have True the Vote and some of these other organizations, Mrs. Engelbrecht, who is just, as best we can tell, a very good, upstanding citizen, she was clearly targeted. You have correspondence with Lois Lerner saying that Tea Party groups are quote-unquote dangerous. Those types of things, you got to deal with it very seriously.
Very serious treatment, and we talked with her on this show, and she is entirely credible, and what has been remarkable is the failure, frankly, of the government to respond in a positive way to her, and that she had to endure, along with so many other leading organizations, conservative organizations, for over such a period of time. Lois Lerner, talking about a job with President Obama's organizing nonprofit, Organizing for Action, while she was in charge of oversight at IRS for those tax-exempt organizations. Your thoughts?
Well, I think the Ways and Means Committee under Dave Camp and has done the right thing. This is a criminal referral. It's dealt with very seriously. If this case is not dealt with in a serious way by the Department of Justice, nothing will be. Clearly, there is just a pattern of prejudice here in something that's supposed to be nonpartisan. The IRS is supposed to be separate than everything else, but clearly was not. And to the point where she was actually making this exclamation that perhaps she could get this other job because of it. Remember, she was at the Federal Election Committee, the FEC, right. Commission, and then brought over to be into the IRS. Then they had the Citizens United ruling, and suddenly her attitude towards conservative groups just shows up in the day-to-day paperwork. We heard testimony months ago from people who've been in the IRS. We had two people. One person had been there like nearly 50 years or something unbelievable like that. They had never, ever seen anything like this. It's disparaging a lot of good people at the IRS. We need to root out that bad apple, and I think Chairman Dave Camp did the right thing.
IRS, the Dallas office, the Office of Special Counsel, investigating federal employees who conduct politics on government line, finding it commonplace in the Dallas IRS office. He's saying basically it looked like a campaign office for President Obama. The DHS, Department of Homeland Security, with backdoor jobs trying to subvert federal hiring rules. There seems to be a wanton disregard of regulation, of common sense and good judgment here, at the very least. And at yesterday's hearing in Judiciary, Eric Holder wagging his finger at Congressman Louis Gohmert and saying, you don't want to go there, buddy, when saying that it didn't seem the Attorney General was particularly, well, he said it wasn't a big deal. It didn't appear to be a big deal What is your thought, Congressman?
Well, if you go back specific to this case, remember it was President Obama who went, I believe it was in the East Room, and said that they were going to root this out, and if there was anything wrong, we'll find it. You had the Attorney General Holder who started a criminal investigation. And then before the criminal investigation's even completed, the president goes on and he, in an interview and says there wasn't even a smidgen of corruption or possible corruption. How did he come to that conclusion before the Attorney General and the Department of Justice did? I mean, it just does not add up. There was a lot of smoke there. The committees have done proper investigation. They're going to get a criminal referral, and probably tomorrow we're going to vote on a contempt a proceeding here in the House that will then go to the full House. But come on, this is something that affects Democrats and Republicans. Principle is principle, Lou. If it's right one way, it's going to be right the other way, and the House is doing the right thing.
Congressman, as always, good to talk with you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Lou. Thank
Congressman
you.
Jason Chaffetz, and we will be following the Congressman and his colleagues with the committee hearing beginning at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. The issue, of course, the contempt citation for Lois Lerner. President Obama and the First Lady